I called this GYN office, and I'm thinking in my mind, remember, patient expectation, I want to schedule an appointment. I'm ready to schedule an appointment. I get an automated answering system that says, if you're calling to ask about a medication, please hang up and call your own pharmacy. If you are calling to speak with a secretary, press 1. If you would like to speak to a nurse, press 2. And I'm thinking to myself, I wanted to make, I'm sorry you didn't understand. Please call again later. Click. And I'm thinking, all right, I must have dozed off. I didn't record this correctly. So I called again and again and again because I could not believe this. First of all, if this is about a prescription, hang up and call your own pharmacy. Friendly? Engaging? I think not. If you want to talk to a secretary, press 1. If you want to speak with a nurse, press 2. I'm thinking to myself, I want to schedule an appointment. What am I supposed to press? I'm sorry you didn't understand. Now, that to me says, I'm sorry, you're too stupid to live. I'm going to hang up on you. I'm disconnecting this phone call. That's exactly how it felt. And so I came back to these physicians and I said, you're not going to believe what happened. I called your practice yesterday, and this is what it said. And they said, you have no idea how bad our system used to be. Used to be as in the past tense? All right, they put in a computerized, automated call distributor system. You know, you read the computer reports, and you're measuring how many abandoned calls. All right? Does everybody understand what an abandoned call is? That is when the caller hangs up on you. They were hanging up on me. So they're telling me about how proud they are that last year they had a 25% abandonment rate. It's almost down to 0. And I said, because you're hanging up on me. I didn't get to hang up on you. I'm calling back just so I can hang up and mess up your statistics. They were measuring the wrong thing. So as a consumer, I was able to go back to these physicians who were very proud of their statistics and say, I wouldn't call you back. There is no way that I would call you back. I would open those yellow pages again or go back to the internet directory and I would go right on to the next practice. Because if you can't handle my question, if you can't answer my call in the first place, you're not going to get my business. These are the little things that lead you to ask the critical question of why? What is it about the culture of this organization that makes that okay? That was the same practice that had the promise posted literally in every department I visited. And their promise was things like dignity, privacy, compassion. And when I saw that, it made me ask the question, why? And why is it okay in your culture to have that kind of system and process and, worse yet, that mindset? I'm going to challenge all of you to ask why over and over and over again. Because if you're truly going to be patient-focused, mission-driven, patient-focused, that kind of thing should never happen. We need to teach our staff that every encounter, everything that a patient sees or hears or comes in contact with in our organization has to instill trust. So everything that comes out of their mouths is subject to either increasing that trust or destroying it in an instant. We were secret shopping and hanging out in waiting rooms, and there was a lady in the lab area. It's about 9:30 on a Tuesday morning, and her name was Joyce. I know that because she introduced herself to everyone in the waiting room when she said, well, this is ridiculous. We've got to do something. So she went over to the desk, she grabbed all of the patient satisfaction forms, and she handed them out to everybody in the waiting room. And she said, they need to hear about this. how many of you have had nothing to eat or drink today? And all these people are raising their hand. And she said, how many of you were told to be in here by 9 o'clock? And they're all raising their hand. And she said, this isn't acceptable. If we haven't eaten or had anything to drink, don't you think they should staff up early in the morning? I'm thinking, wow, Joyce has got a point. So I challenge you too to take your anger and to take your pain and to challenge it into a passion that's going to continue to make a difference for other people. It takes brains. It takes heart. It takes courage to be a great nurse. But there's something else. It takes your heart's desire. That's the passion. You've got to know and understand your heart's desire, which is the passion, and build on that passion every single day with every encounter that you have. We can nurture it. We have to work sometimes to reclaim that passion. And I challenge you to do just that. Because we aren't just born with it. It's not like brown eyes or blue eyes. All right? It's not on, in your genetic code. You can't blame your parents for this one if you don't have it. All right? You got to work at it. I was juggling. I was juggling the rubber balls, the glass balls, all of them all at once, and wondering, how am I going to keep it up? So I thought, like a good nurse, we don't get rid of anything. We just figure a new way to juggle faster or harder or more strategically, right? I said, I'm here for time management. I don't have time to write a mission statement. What's this about? And what he said made really good sense. If you don't know what's most important, then how do you know you're spending your time wisely? If you haven't identified those core values that are at the heart of everything that you do, then how are you prioritizing? And I often talk about the mission being why you exist. All right? Core values are what we believe in. And I challenge you to take the time at home. I'm a big advocate of journaling. But to take the time to identify 5 or 6 things in your list of core values. Look at your vision, what you want to be. And then your strategy is basically, how do you do all that? What is the strategy to live the life that you want to live? This is an exercise. And I look at it like this, too. You need to put it on paper. You need to put it into words. Because that gives it validity, it gives it value, it makes it real. A sense of purpose is where you start to connect that vision and values back to who I am and what I do with my hands every single day. And it's the soul of your work. Having a true sense of purpose becomes the soul of your work and makes for better, greater satisfaction in your life. Take the time to write these things out. I learned a lesson a few years ago about connection to purpose. It's kind of an interesting way that I learned about connection to purpose. I was having a party. I had guests, about 150 guests coming to my home, and I wanted to entertain in my yard. And my fence was peeling, and it looked just awful, and I was working, and I didn't have time to paint the fence, and my husband didn't have time to paint the fence. And the nice thing about having teenage daughters is there's always teenage boys around. So I was able to rally a couple of the guys, pay them, and I said, okay, I'll pay you in cash, and all the food you can eat. I didn't realize how risky that second part of the bargain was. Seriously, there was one night where I bought pounds of deli meats, and I took a loaf of French bread and I sliced it and I stuffed it with, I think, probably about 5 or 6 pounds of meat and cheese, and I thought, I'll give the boys a snack while they're painting and then I'll feed the family afterwards. The boys came in, they cut it in half, and each one of them stood there eating their sandwich. But when the guys looked at the fence, typical 16, 17-year-old boys are saying, Ms. Baird, I don't see anything wrong with this fence. It doesn't looks okay to me. And I said, Tom, look with me. See how the paint's peeling? And it's the first thing I see when I walk out the door. And you notice how it flanks my flower gardens the way it does? And you notice it borders on 3 of my neighbors' yards as well. And you can see it from the street. So it's really important that that fence look good. So these 2 boys worked, for days, painting the fence and getting it looking all great. And the day of the party, I overheard Tom talking to his father. And he said, Dad, I was responsible for a major neighborhood improvement project this week. And his dad looked at him and said, Tom, you painted a fence. And his response was so good. He said, Dad, do you realize that's the first thing that Chris sees when she walks out the door? Do you realize it flanks her flower garden and that it's bordering 3 properties and you can see it from the street? I didn't just paint a fence. It was a neighborhood improvement project. You need to connect to purpose. And the only way you're going to do that is if you find real value in what you do. You connect it back to your personal mission and vision. Tom was very clear about what he had achieved. His dad saw a fence. Tom saw the neighborhood. He got it.